They say the first 100,000 is a bitch. But why is it so incredibly hard to achieve? And what does it take to actually get there?
You know that feeling? You work for years, you're carefully saving your money, and yet you still feel like you're barely inching forward financially. Why does hitting that first $100,000 feel almost impossible? And on the flip side, why does everyone say that building the next $100,000 is so much easier? Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving deep into the psychology and the raw mechanics behind this massive financial milestone. We're going to break down exactly why accumulating that initial wealth is so incredibly tough, and how the entire game fundamentally changes once you finally establish a solid financial base. Let's get right into it.
So why is it so hard? Well, the brutal reality is that when you're starting from absolute zero, you are doing all the heavy lifting. Think about it for a second. Your salary has to generate the savings. Your specific skills have to create the income. Your pure, unadulterated discipline has to keep your spending in check. And your investments? Well, they just haven't had enough time to actually start working for you yet. Starting from zero is a grind because, quite frankly, you have absolutely zero leverage.
Let's actually look at the raw math here because it perfectly captures this uphill battle. Picture two different people. Person A is starting with a tiny financial base of just $1,000. Person B has a base of $100,000. Now, let's say they both hit the market right and earn the exact same 10% return on their investments. For person A, a 10% return on $1,000 gives them, well, $100. But for person B, that exact same 10% return on their $100,000 produces 10 grand. The percentage is identical, right? The effort they put in to get that percentage might even be exactly the same. But the actual dollar impact, it is worlds apart. That is the sheer, undeniable power of having a larger base. And that brings us to a really crucial point. At the very beginning, your money isn't doing the heavy lifting. You are. Every single dollar you manage to save in this early phase relies 100% on your personal effort, your daily labor, and your ability to look at something you want and say, no. It's exhausting, and it's exhausting because you are the solo engine driving your wealth forward. Your money simply hasn't stepped up to become your coworker yet. So the journey usually kicks off with a pretty simple math problem around your income. Say you bring home $2,000 a month, but you spend $1,950 to survive. You've only got a tiny $50 margin left over. But if you figure out a way to earn $5,000 and keep your expenses at $3,500, suddenly you've got $1,500 freed up to build wealth. Now, I want to be clear. This doesn't mean you need some massive six-figure salary right out of the gate. What it really means is that widening the gap, the space between what you earn and what you spend, that is your fundamental wealth engine. Increasing that gap is literally how you fuel your progress. This actually brings us to kind of a harsh realization about how we traditionally think about saving money. There are really only a couple of ways to widen that gap we just talked about. You either earn more, you spend less, or ideally, you do both. But here's the catch. There is a strict, undeniable limit to how much you can cut. Sure, you can cancel your streaming subscriptions, you can stop eating out, you can clip coupons. But eventually, you hit a hard brick wall. You literally cannot reduce your living expenses to zero. Cutting spending has a floor, but your ability to increase your income, that has a much, much higher ceiling.
And that higher ceiling is exactly why developing valuable skills is such a game changer. Let's think about someone making $30,000 a year. If they spend a couple of years grinding, learning a new high-demand skill, and bump their income to $50,000, that isn't just an extra $20K to go blow at the mall. It fundamentally transforms the amount of money they can now save, invest, and reinvest. Skills like sales, clear communication, programming, marketing, or management, they all create massive leverage. A person who learns to sell becomes a more persuasive communicator. Someone who learns to code can solve complex technical problems at scale. This kind of experience is what turns your earning ability into your absolute most vital financial asset. But, there's always a catch, right? There is a massive, sneaky obstacle waiting for you the second you start earning more money. It is the quietest wealth killer out there: lifestyle inflation. Here's how it happens. You get a raise, your income goes up, and suddenly, almost like magic, your expenses creep right up alongside it. You buy a slightly nicer car. You move into a slightly bigger apartment. You start ordering the expensive appetizers at dinner. The paycheck gets bigger for sure, but the actual amount of money you're saving, it doesn't budge an inch. Earning more money does not automatically make you wealthier if your spending instantly eats up the difference. Ultimately, the only thing that matters is what happens to that gap in between.
Because of all this heavy lifting and the daily discipline required to fight off that lifestyle inflation, hitting your first $100,000 requires something most of us, let's be honest, really don't enjoy: patience. We live in this hyper-connected world that is totally obsessed with the myth of overnight success. We are constantly bombarded with stories of the 20-something tech millionaire, the teenage crypto winner, or the viral social media star. But relying on that's basically treating the lottery like it's a retirement plan. The reality of true wealth accumulation is actually, quite frankly, a little boring. You earn, you save, you invest, you learn, and you repeat it over and over for years.
There's a great saying for this. A seed doesn't look like a tree. Early financial progress almost always feels completely invisible before it suddenly becomes obvious. Checking a tiny investment account on your phone on a Tuesday morning definitely doesn't feel like financial freedom. But time has a funny way of changing things. The daily, consistent, often boring care of that little seed is exactly what eventually grows into a massive tree. And this is where the absolute magic of compound growth finally enters the chat. Imagine you invest some money and it earns a return. Now, instead of cashing out and spending those returns, you leave them invested, which allows them to generate even more returns. This is that beautiful moment when your money finally clocks in and starts working right alongside you. But here's the thing. Compounding desperately needs two ingredients to work: time and capital. When you only have a tiny bit of capital invested, the results feel super underwhelming. Remember that $100 gain on a $1,000 investment? But as that base grows over time, those returns start doing some very serious heavy lifting on their own.
Now, I want to just pause for a second and ground us firmly in reality here. There is absolutely no magical secret investment that guarantees you're going to hit $100,000. Markets go up, and yeah, they definitely go down. Investment returns are never, ever guaranteed. And usually, if you're chasing some wild, unusually high return, you're exposing yourself to an unusually high amount of risk. Our goal with this explainer isn't to sell you a shortcut or promise you're going to be rich by next week. The goal here is to figure out how to build a financial system that is fundamentally sustainable.
All right, so how do we actually build this roadmap? It starts with step 1, tracking exactly where your money is going. You simply cannot improve something if you refuse to measure it. Step 2 is increasing your skills to supercharge your earning power. Step 3, you've got to build an emergency cushion. Step 4, ruthlessly attack any expensive debt. And step 5, invest consistently once that solid foundation is in place. This is the tried and true systematic way to stop money from bossing you around and start taking control of it yourself.
Let's zoom in on steps 3 and 4 for a minute, because they form what we can call the shield. You absolutely have to build an emergency cushion. Why? Because unexpected expenses, a blown tire, a broken fridge, a sudden medical bill, they can instantly wipe out months of hard work and push you right back into the trap of expensive debt. Having a financial buffer gives you breathing room, and let me tell you, having breathing room makes making smart, long-term decisions so much easier. At the exact same time, you've got to eliminate high-interest debt. If you're trying to build wealth while carrying a massive credit card balance, that debt is literally dragging your progress backward. You have to protect your progress with a shield. Okay, so once you have that shield up and you're in the groove of consistently saving and investing, the whole story gets incredibly interesting. Hitting your very first $10,000, that is going to feel brutally difficult, but then you hit $25,000, then $50,000. As you march across this timeline toward that $100,000 mark, something amazing happens inside your head. Your psychology begins to fundamentally shift. You now have hard proof that you can do this. You've built rock-solid habits. You have real experience and a tangible financial base. As the numbers on the screen grow, your financial resilience grows right along with them.
And this journey teaches a really profound philosophical lesson. I want you to think about the difference between looking wealthy and actually becoming wealthy. Looking wealthy means spending your hard-earned cash just to demonstrate success to everyone else. It creates an image, an illusion. Becoming wealthy, on the other hand, means quietly building actual assets and true financial stability. It creates options. And having options in life, that is quite literally one of the single most valuable things money can ever buy.
Because here's the honest truth. The path to actual wealth is often highly, beautifully unimpressive to the outside world. Building real wealth requires doing a bunch of stuff that doesn't look glamorous at all on social media. It means driving an older car. It means aggressively living way below your means. It means totally ignoring the social pressure to keep up with your neighbors and just saying no way to stuff you don't actually need. It's about choosing to invest instead of instantly upgrading your lifestyle, and choosing to learn instead of showing off. The world is always going to reward flashy appearances, but wealth strictly rewards discipline. So if you take nothing else away from this explainer, remember this. Crossing that $100,000 mark is not actually the finish line. It doesn't mean you can just throw your hands up and say, "I've made it." It's just a milestone. It's a flashing green light telling you that your financial system is functioning exactly the way it's supposed to. The real objective here isn't just to hit some arbitrary number on a screen. It's financial resilience. It's that deeply comforting ability to handle whatever curveballs life throws at you, to make choices without constant financial panic, and to finally have your money working right alongside your own labor. Let's quickly recap exactly why hitting this first major milestone is such a massive heavy lift. It's because at day one, you have absolutely zero leverage. You literally have to construct this entire wealth-building machine completely from scratch. You have to build up your income. You have to build your savings. You have to build your knowledge base. You have to forge daily discipline. And you have to construct your entire investment base. All of this while fighting off the immense temptation to blow every extra dollar you earn. It is a gigantic foundation, and it takes painstaking effort to lay every single brick.
But man, once that foundation is firmly in place, everything changes. Getting to that first $100,000 isn't really about the money itself. It's about crossing a psychological threshold where you can look back and proudly say, I built this. You figured out how to earn, how to save, how to invest, and how to stay disciplined when it was really hard. The person you have to become to build that foundation, the patience you cultivate, the skills you master, the sheer resilience you develop, is ultimately worth so much more than the cash. So start small. Give your money the time it needs to compound. And whatever you do, please don't throw in the towel just because progress feels agonizingly slow at the beginning. Keep watering that seed. Because once your foundation is rock solid, the only question left to ask yourself is, what kind of amazing life are you going to build with all that leverage you finally earned?